How's it going? And do you happen to have a tough decision to make in some area of your life right now? Or have you ever wondered how to make a good decision when you have a lot of options and maybe all of them are great or all of them are terrible, or maybe where you don't know what you want and the like? Because we're going to talk about how to make difficult decisions well. And if you're like me or Ali from the notebook and Noah's asking you what you want, not what I want, not what he wants, but what do you want for dinner, and you don't always know, then you're in the right place, my friend. And before we dig in, for my new friends here, hi, I'm Julie Bethany, and I create content to empower you to live your best, most authentic life as the truest you version of who you are. And I give you tools and resources to do that here. And I should say, if we're not official friends yet, I'd love to keep hanging out with you, and we can do that if you subscribe to the show here and or come hang out with me where I'm most active, which is on the gram at Julie Bethany, where I share daily empowerment for you in even more bite-sized bits. Okay, this is how I've decided, get it? We're going to tackle this topic of how to make difficult decisions well today. First, we'll start off with understanding why some decisions are much harder to make than others for us. Then we'll talk about when the right time to make a difficult decision is, and the circumstances and environment you should try and create for yourself in order to make the best decision possible, because it does matter. And finally, we'll conclude with how to actually make a good decision when the choice is difficult for you. Okay, let's start with understanding why some decisions are much harder to make than others for us. First of all, a lot of us live lives these days where we're running from one thing to another from the moment our alarm goes off for the fifth time that morning and we finally get out of bed. Just me? No. But making a good decision takes mental energy. And when we're constantly on the go, our brains are distracted by a million tiny things. Even if we're sort of flying on autopilot physically, like can get to work without even having to think about the route super consciously and sometimes eerily, like you don't remember driving here this morning. Also just me? Well, I ride the subway now, but you get what I'm describing, right? It's a real feeling. And if you think of your decision-making capacity, like you might think of your social battery, for example, you start off pretty full in the morning. And as the day progresses, your ability to make good decisions goes down. Just like your ability to put up with everyone's crap at the end of the day decreases significantly by the hour, right? We're honest in this space, okay? But that very real and psychologically proven concept is called decision fatigue. And decision fatigue is a phenomenon where the more decisions you make over the course of a day, the more physically, mentally, and emotionally depleted you become. That definition is from a psychotherapist, so we can trust them, named Natasha Duke, MARP. Don't know what the letters stand for, but they sound impressive, and thought I should include them because they earn them. But if you really think about it, our decision-making capacity really does function a lot like our social batteries do. And if you're already stressed out and are dealing with a lot in general, you may wake up drained already too. And your ability to make decisions could be even smaller. So it's not just in your head if a decision feels really, really hard to make. It's a very real, psychologically proven concept, and our brains need power to make a good decision. And if we're already depleted, it's going to be a lot harder to make simply due to how our brains are wired. Okay, that leads me to the fact that there is definitely a best time and environment you can create for yourself to make a tough decision. So what is it? From what I just told you about decision fatigue wearing you out throughout the day, you can probably guess, right? That the best time of day to make a decision is for sure gonna be when? Early in the day, better than later. Yep, absolutely. After you've already made a ton of decisions in your day, because then your decision-making cup or battery is pretty empty or low. The thing is, when it comes to really big decisions, those things take time because they are not inconsequential. But decisions often come with big rewards or big consequences and sometimes big life changes. And sometimes we don't know which choice will actually reap the reward and which will make the negative consequences materialize, like unleashing, I don't know, zombies. Also, has anyone read Pride and Prejudice and Zombies? I've heard it's actually sort of good. So let me know if you have and if it's worth it in the comments or something. But we sort of have to do the best we can with what we have when it comes to decision making, especially if they're big decisions. And we can also make educated guesses, which I'll talk about in a bit too. So here's how we can craft a good space and place to make a good decision in. First, we've got to look at the environment you're creating in order for you to make the best decision possible for you. And that means you're making the decision after spending not just one morning, but a good amount of time, as much as you have, but not too much, because as they say, whoever they are, those who hesitate are lost. But they do have a point, and we definitely don't want to stay stuck and never make a decision. So we want to set some good time aside to make a big decision. But we also want to have a deadline we give ourselves to make the decision by. So for example, if I'm considering moving across the country, which I did once, I probably need to decide before my lease term ends, if I have one, right? I was actually on a rare month-to-month lease at the time, so that was cool. But you can determine what the amount of time should be either by time constraints that are attached to the decision externally, like in the lease example, or a time frame you give yourself intentionally to make the decision in order to make sure it gets made. By the way, not making a decision is a decision too, and it's typically going to cause you a lot of stress and a sore behind if you sit on the fence too long, okay? So we need to make a decision and move on with our lives within a time frame set for us externally or that we set internally, because it will nag at us if we don't choose, and that's annoying. So we should make a decision. Next, we want to create a good, peaceful space for ourselves to think in. Think the feeling when your thoughts can flow in peace, like the water flows in the shower. You're going to need a place and blocks of time where you can go there entirely to think free from distraction. And the shower is honestly not a bad place for that. Like, raise your hand if those shower thoughts are some of your best. You're not distracted there and literally can't do anything else but shower. And everything shower, anybody? So it's a pretty good place to ponder. So we need a timeline to make the decision and a peaceful, distraction-free place where you can actively think on the decision. And it's best if the time slot that you allot for yourself is in the morning or earlier in the day in order to avoid decision fatigue. And finally, how do we actually make a good decision when the choice is difficult for us? We just talked about the environment you create to think about your decision and how that's a really important factor. But one of the things in your environment we didn't talk about is who you let into the decision-making process with you. And sometimes your decision will impact others. And if it's you deciding to stay at a company, for example, it's your life you're deciding about. But if you're planning a cross-country move and you have a whole spouse, for example, that means we're going to need to factor in the other person too, hopefully. But you also want to know what's best for you so you can make that decision with that person. And regardless of how many people your decision impacts, the people you surround yourself with when you're trying to make a decision and the amount and type of people you let into your decision-making process is important to safeguard, because you don't want the naysayers around when you're trying to make a decision about following your dreams, right? We do want our supporters and counsel of wise friends who truly, truly, truly have the best in mind for us around, though. So the people you want around are the ones who will offer you their 2 cents, but don't care if you take their tips or not. Get it? So we want to have the right people included in our decision-making process alongside us. When we're making a tough decision, we need to ask ourselves what we really want for our lives long term, because we're the ones who get to live it, right? And that's step 1, namely to figure out what you want for your life long term before you even think about making the decision at hand, because we want to make a decision that will get us closer to the goal we have for our lives and where we want to be. And once we know what we want for ourselves in the future, we can make that decision that will get us one step closer to what we envision for ourselves. We can make a good decision if we have a good vision. And then decisions become a lot easier because if my goal is to end up in London in 2 weeks and I'm in New York today, I'm not going to walk towards Seattle for a week. It's the wrong direction. So decisions become a lot easier to make when we have an end goal in mind that gives us a clear picture of the destination we're aiming at, and therefore, which decision will get us closer to where we ultimately want to go. And sometimes we need to make a decision for now to get out of a bad situation. And that will help us decide if we need to take just the best option for now and reassess later. For example, I was laid off earlier this year again. And side note, if you were to or are concerned layoffs may be coming to an office near you, I have a lot of resources for you now, including 3 now episodes on layoffs, like what to do if you are laid off, how to prepare for one, and what the signs one might be coming are, and the emotional impacts layoffs have, which are episodes 28, 46, and 47. And I'll drop those in the show notes for you. And I also have a journal book hybrid on Amazon, which I made to help those who have been laid off heal, regain confidence, and take practical steps to pursue a successful future. And you can also learn more about that on my website, juliebethany.com/the layoff journal. And I'll link it in the show notes here too. But when I was laid off recently, I chose the best option of 2 roles I was offered, even if all the things I wanted out of a role, like direct reports, weren't necessarily there, so I could be, employed again. And it's notable that I just had a bad feeling about one of the offers. So you can feel that intuition sometimes telling you important things, and it's good to listen when you get a weird feeling about something. But you can make a decision for now that you're welcome to change later. And when I did, in fact, move across the country from LA to New York City, I told myself that LA will always be there if I didn't like it here. And I could reverse that decision later if I wanted. And I recognize not all decisions are like that, but some are. So you can also make an informed decision or educated guess and do some research by using the good old Googs or YouTube or whatever you want to find out what the outcome was like for someone who made a decision that had similar options as you're presented with. You can make an ever popular pros and cons list too. And I love doing this one, which is visualizing what it would look like and feel like if you made each decision. Marie Forleo also talks a lot about how you can feel what you want in your body when you think of a decision you have to make and about each choice you can make. And she explains it like, you'll feel like you're either opening up or closing off physically when you think about possible decisions you could make. And in Start With Why, Simon Sinek teaches us that sometimes when we just quote unquote know what we want without having a good explanation for it, it's because we feel things in our limbic brain, which controls human behavior and happens to be where we make decisions and also does not happen to be where we rationalize things. Interestingly enough, it relies more on how we feel. And that part of the brain isn't the part responsible for putting things into words either. So it's actually very valid if you just feel like an option is the right one for you without a logical explanation tied to it yet, because that's how the decision-making part of our brain works. And because Simon said it, and I trust what Simon says. Anyway, as my final notable mention of a suggestion here, please make a decision when you're things like, well-fed and not hangry, when you're not feeling emotional or PMSing for those of you who do, and when you are sober-minded, when you're, not exhausted and running off no sleep, but when you are in a good state physically, mentally, and emotionally as much as possible. Because when you feel better, you tend to make better decisions. Okay, those are a lot of things you could do, which I totally recognize presents you with yet more decisions to make about how you make your decision. But ultimately, I'll highlight that if you decide first what it is you want long-term for your life and the dreams and goals you have for your life, it'll be so much easier to make the decisions that can help you get there, because you can choose the ones that will bring you one step closer automatically, and it'll feel like more of a no-brainer instead of that decision fatigue when you're trying to decide what to do. And when you know your destination, It's so much easier to take steps in the right direction to get there and to know which decisions will lead you on that path. If you have a good vision, you can make a good decision. Okay, that's all for today. And if you like this episode, will you do me a favor and give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, rate it or subscribe? Because I would love to keep hanging out with you here on Instagram at Julie Bethany. And hey, if you're feeling stuck right now and want someone, aka me, to guide you through the exact simple steps of getting unstuck and getting moving on your goal right now to feel happier, I have a free mini course you can watch now and a full-length one if you really love it. And you can find that at juliebethany.com/courses or in the show notes here. And I'll put a clip in after Kippen makes her episodely appearance too. I hope you go today and start to live the life of your dreams as the best, most authentic, truest to you version of yourself you can be. Because when you do that, you show others it's possible for them too. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Can you say hello? Good girl.
And that's all for the announcements from Kippen today.
Good baby. Okay, thank you.
I interrupt myself for this very important announcement. You're so welcome. I am beyond excited to share with you that I have a free mini course you can take right now, but also maybe wait until after you finish this episode, but to each their own. I'm not going to stop you from doing you. But the course is about helping you get unstuck and re-inspired if you feel like you're in a place like a lot of us do often, honestly, where you just don't know what you want next for your life, or if you do, how to get it. The mini course includes 10 quick minutes of me sharing strategies to help you get unstuck and re-inspired, and comes with a complimentary one-page journal entry you can download for you to work through what you want for your life and how to create the momentum to get what you want next for yourself in the easiest and fastest way possible. And you'll take away actionable items you can apply right away. And as a bonus, after the initial course, if you still left wanting more, I'll tell you about my full-length version of that course that will walk you through creating a goal and a plan to achieve it in order to get you closer to the life of your dreams you want to be living, and the exact steps to do that over the next 3 months. I will hold your lovely hands in mine and guide you toward figuring out what you want and then how to get it efficiently if you want to take it a step further. I shall run the marathon with you after the sprint so that in 3 months you will have achieved something you really want in your life. All good things take time, so for the sake of the best version of yourself and the life you could be living 3 months from now, which will fly by, you don't need to put off your dreams any longer. You deserve to live the life of your dreams as soon as possible, because why not? So let's start today. I'm ready. Are you? To check it out and get the free mini course so you can apply the tools to improve your life right away, and or to learn more about the full-length course about going from stuck to re-inspired and really crushing a massive goal in only 3 months' time with me, the links are included with this episode. I can't wait to see what you create for your life with it. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming.